Hi everyone, this is Jim. Welcome to this postmortem of my Blitz game number 511. I had the white pieces and I played knight f3, the Reti opening. Not an opening I'm all that familiar with, but it seems to lead to some interesting play. My opponent goes g6. I think the main move is d5 to stay in Reti territory. After knight to f6, that's the most flexible response and probably it's certainly a top choice in the database and a good way to play, I think. You can transpose into a lot of different openings from there. A lot of times you can go into an English opening. After knight f6, white will play c4 at that point. But anyway, he's going for this fianchetto, and that was my plan too. So we get kind of a symmetrical setup here, bishop g7 and bishop g2. But he doesn't develop his kingside knight at this point, which might have been kind of a logical way to just mirror what I'm doing. But he plays knight to c6 instead. You see, that's kind of a rare move. And it makes a lot of sense to play something like c5 or maybe even d5 here. Putting some pawns in the center, I think, would be good for black at this point. And he has a choice whether to move this knight to f6 or keep it back and develop it to e7 and leave this dark square diagonal open. So, I mean, one strategy could be to play for the dark squares with moves like c5 and e6 and pawn to knight to e7, things like that. But I don't think this knight to c6 is a good idea because it's blocking that c-pawn, and that cuts off a lot of his possibilities. And now I could play d4 here, but I go on with this Reti style setup. You're basically going for light squared control, sort of the mirror image of the strategy I just diagrammed for black. You've got control of the light squares here. And he plays d5 immediately to counter it, which is often played against the Reti. Right here, though, maybe not the most accurate move. It might be better to go into more of a, you could go into a reverse Sicilian setup with the e5. Seems like that would be a fine way to play. With d5, the drawback in this particular case is that he doesn't have the knight to take back with, so he's got to take back with the queen. And it gives me a tempo, so this gives me a little more edge. I mean, it's nothing really fatal, but you know, it gives a comfortable edge to white. So I castle. And now his next move, I think, is his really big mistake. So far, I think nothing horrible has really happened, and he should probably continue with e5 and stake out his claim to the center. But he plays instead bishop e6, blocking the e-pawn. So both the pawns that can really fight for any center control have been blocked by his pieces, and now he's really much worse. And I can immediately play d4 and threaten to come in here and fork those two pieces. So I also get to complete my development with tempo. He plays knight to f6. The engine is already suggesting a potential. Can he actually take that pawn? Look at this. Knight takes d4. I didn't notice this earlier. Knight takes d4. Queen takes d4. Queen takes d4. Bishop takes d4. And I have bishop takes b7 at the end. Wow. So I was a little bit oblivious to that. That's funny. There's a similar kind of mistake later in the game where I'm just overlooking the fact that he can grab a pawn. So he grabs a pawn, and the only thing that saves me is the fact that I can grab his b-pawn here. I still have an advantage because, the material's even, his pawn structure is a little bit worse, and my development's a little better. But that was interesting. I completely overlooked that. So, but better than grabbing the pawn is developing with knight f6, which he did, and that's another way of just stopping me from advancing my pawn, and also allows him to castle. But in both those lines I keep a significant edge, e4, because of the mistakes he made earlier. So I push on with e4 now. He's no longer threatening to take the d-pawn because the knight has blocked the bishop. So he plays the move bishop to c4 to get away from this fork. What's the chess engine? The chess engine likes bishop to g4 a little better. Yeah, maybe that's a little more logical. It's pinning this knight and indirectly fighting for the center. So the bishop on c4, it's not clear if that's such a great square for it, but it hits my rook, so I move the rook to e1, and then he castles. So he got to complete his development and get all his pieces out, but he's given up a lot of control over the center. I have all this center control here, and I continue with queen a4, which oddly enough is one of the top choices of the engine. Afterwards I wasn't sure, because it's not clear if the queen is the best piece, if this is the best location for the queen over here on the queen side. I guess it is because of where his pieces are. It goes with tempo, but I still haven't solved the problem of what to do about my dark squared bishop. But I guess I'm just able to leave that, defer that question for a while with this move. Queen a4 gains a tempo on the bishop, which drops back. And now my next move is the second mistake I referred to, and it's a similar kind of idea. This pawn is defended by two pieces and attacked by two pieces, so once again it's the d4 pawn. When I play the move b4, I've undefended that, but it's not so complicated. I mean, it's not so simple, because if he takes, I can push on with b5 and win a piece. So you would think that taking that pawn is not possible. But there are some strange tactics in this position. So in fact, you can see that black can equalize by grabbing that pawn. So if you want to pause and think about the position here, see if you can figure out what's going on. I'll have to tell you that it was pretty complicated for me, and I had the help of the chess engine to figure it out, and I still didn't quite get it. Okay, well, let's go ahead and put this on the board. This is like the last interesting moment in the game, so I might as well spend a little time checking it out. Knight takes d4 could have been played, and then I probably would have pushed on with b5, thinking I had a double attack here. I'm attacking the knight, which is attacked, and I'm attacking the bishop. And even if he takes my knight here with check, I take back, his bishop is still trapped, so it seems like I'm just winning a piece here. But he has the amazing move knight takes e4. And now in this position, let's see, if I take with the knight, then he can at least grab this pawn, and he will have three pawns for the piece. So let's first of all take a look at that, because it's certainly very tempting to take with the knight, but it actually is a losing move here, because I've lost control of this b5 square. He can take. He's got three pawns for his piece, and he's kicking my queen around. And I have to be careful where the queen goes. Notice the knight is controlling these squares. If I go to b4, which is the engine suggestion, he's got knight c2 with a fork. So how about if I just drop back to a d1? That's probably what I would play here. And then knight to e2 check, supported by the bishop. So there's all kinds of crazy stuff going on here. King h1, queen takes d1, rook takes d1, and bishop takes a1. Okay, at the end of all that, he grabs the rook in the corner. So there's some interesting tactics in this position. So taking back with the knight there and letting this b pawn go, it's not the best way to play it. After he takes the knight, after he takes on e4, the best play is for me to take with the rook. And then now he can either, didn't like that. He takes this pawn over here. And basically he's got three pieces. He's got three pawns for his piece. And he still has pressure on this diagonal with his bishop. So, tricky stuff. That would have been best play after I played this move b4. And it appears to lose a piece, but he gets three pawns for the piece, even in the best case, even with best play for white, and it's tricky. So that would have been an interesting continuation. Instead, he took the other pawn, and maybe just didn't see a way out of this fork. It's kind of unfortunate because if the knight just moves anywhere, then this pawn still traps the bishop there. So that's why knight takes e4 was really the only move. But at this point, he just has sacrificed a piece, and he doesn't have enough compensation. He could once again take on d4. Now he can just grab this pawn and hold it, and he'll have a couple pawns for the piece, but I'll still try and trap his bishop. Be interesting. Yeah, knight takes d4, knight takes d4, bishop takes d4, and I need to move my rook out of the way, or maybe trap his bishop. Hard to say what's better. But in any case, I'm still a piece up. He goes bishop to d3, hitting my knight. And let's just walk through the rest of the game. I stay a piece up for the rest of the game, and so there's not a whole lot going on from a post-mortem point of view. He gave up another piece here, but what's interesting is, yeah, my last move was queen c2 attacking the knight. So the knight doesn't really have any good squares because of all of the advanced pawns that I have here. They've taken away the squares from the knight, so it, you know, just retreating the knight is not very attractive in a position where you're already down a piece, but of course being down 2 pieces is not helping either. So we just go into this end game, and it's just a matter of time before I coordinate my forces and manage to take some pawns here with my extra pieces and then break through. So nothing too difficult, and at this point he resigned. So, well, there was that one interesting moment in the game. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Leave any comments you have in the section below, and I will see you again soon.